Everyone thinks they know the story of the Trojan horse, a giant wooden horse, a clever trick by Odysseus, and boom, Troy finally falls after 10 years of bloody stalemate. Hell, we've all heard it a million times, but here's what most people get completely wrong. Odysseus may have come up with the idea, but he didn't build a damn thing. The real hero, the guy who actually designed and constructed the most famous military deception in history, was a man named Epeius. And unlike the glory-soaked warriors who get all the credit, this guy was known throughout the Greek camp as a coward, the man whose hands created the wooden structure that ended the legendary war couldn't even hold his own in battle. How's that for history's greatest irony? So, yeah, if these stories work for you, subscribe. And I'm curious, what time is it where you are? Comment your city and time. Last week, someone from Canada said they listen during lunch breaks. Not judging, just wasn't expecting that. Okay, tonight it's the Trojan War. But wait, are you comfortable? No, really, check. Pillows, blankets, the whole deal. Where we're going, you'll want to be settled. So congratulations, you just woke up in the Greek camp outside the walls of Troy. It's the 10th year of a war that was only supposed to last a few months. 10 brutal years of watching your friends die for some Spartan king's wounded pride. Your back aches from sleeping on the hard-packed dirt beneath your makeshift tent. The air smells of smoke, sweat and salt from the nearby Aegean Sea. In the distance, Troy's massive walls loom like a taunt, impossibly strong, endlessly defiant. Not like your cozy bed right now. It's barely dawn when you hear shouting from the tent next to yours, the first sounds that greet you every single day in this godforsaken war. Hungry, angry men looking for someone to blame. This morning, it's Epeius they're mocking. Hey, carpenter, save some wine for the men who actually fight. The voice belongs to Thoas, a bulky Aetolian with more scars than teeth. Epeius doesn't respond. He never does. His hands, calloused and strong, continue working a piece of wood with his knife, shaving it into some useful shape. Those hands are the strongest part of him, the part that's never failed him, unlike his courage. You've watched him in battle. He hangs back, his spear trembling, but give him timber and tools and he transforms. Those same hands that shake when holding weapons become steady as stone when gripping an adze or hammer. The man can transform raw wood into anything. Epeius looks up from his work, and you notice the dark circles under his eyes. The man hasn't slept well in days. None of you have. The rations are low. Again, mostly barley cakes so hard they could crack teeth. A bit of wine that tastes more like vinegar with each passing day. And whatever fish the men can catch. Some soldiers have resorted to eating rats, not the glorious war they sang about back home. And the Trojans, they're sitting pretty behind those walls, getting fresh food and water delivered from their inland allies. You can sometimes smell the meat cooking during their festivals. Pure torture. Water rations cut again, a voice says beside you. It's Alexios, one of the few friends you've managed to keep alive these 10 years. 2 cups per man today. Agamemnon's orders. 2 cups. Barely enough to keep a man alive in this heat, let alone combat ready. But that's been the story of this endless siege, slowly dying outside the walls while waiting for some miracle to break the stalemate. As you collect your water ration in a dented bronze cup, you notice a commotion near Agamemnon's tent. The kings are gathering. Odysseus of Ithaca, Ajax the Greater, Diomedes, all of them huddled with the commander. Something's happening. Odysseus looks different today. There's a gleam in his eye that you haven't seen since the early years of the war. The man's known for his cunning, his wily mind, as the poets will one day call it. When he gets that look, things change, sometimes for better, sometimes for much, much worse. You're not important enough to be part of their council, so you return to your tent, gnawing on a stale barley cake. The taste reminds you of wet clay, another joy of army life. Men would kill for a taste of honey or fresh bread. Some literally have during the worst supply shortages. The heat builds as the sun climbs higher. Your leather armor sticks to your skin and flies buzz around the festering wounds of the man in the tent next to yours. The camp healers do what they can, but infection claims almost as many men as Trojan spears. The smell of rot and unwashed bodies hangs over everything like an invisible fog. Midday brings a moment of excitement when a patrol returns with a wild boar they managed to spear in the foothills. Not enough to feed everyone, but the officers will eat well tonight. You won't. It's during this momentary distraction that you notice Odysseus walking purposefully toward Epeius's tent. The carpenter is still there, working. He's built himself a small awning for shade, always practical, that one, and continues shaping what looks like a new handle for someone's broken tool. Odysseus ducks under the awning, and though you can't hear what's being said, you can see Epeius's expression change from surprise to disbelief to something like fear. But there's something else there too, a flicker of pride perhaps. The conversation lasts longer than you'd expect. At one point, Epeius stands, gesturing with his hands as if describing dimensions. Odysseus nods, clearly pleased with whatever he's hearing. When Odysseus finally leaves, Epeius sits back down, but he's no longer working. He stares at the distant walls of Troy with an intensity you've never seen from him before. Then, strangely, he begins drawing in the dirt with a stick, shapes, lines, calculations. Later, as the day cools toward evening, rumours begin spreading through camp. The kings have a plan, a new strategy to finally end this miserable war. Something about a horse, something about deception. Details are sparse, contradictory. What you do know is that Epeius is suddenly being treated with unusual respect. The same men who mocked him at dawn are now bringing him extra rations at dusk. Even Thoas approaches the carpenter's tent with what looks suspiciously like an offering of wine. As night falls, you notice men quietly gathering wood from the supply pile and bringing it to a clearing near Epeius's tent. Not enough for a signal fire or cooking, much more than that. They work by torchlight, speaking in hushed tones. In the dying light, you catch a glimpse of Epeius standing amid the growing pile of timber. He's holding what appears to be a measuring cord, his face set in deep concentration, no longer the trembling coward. Now he looks like a man with purpose, a man with a plan. For the first time in years, something like hope stirs in the Greek camp. You've seen that look before, on the faces of men about to attempt something either incredibly brave or suicidally stupid. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. As you settle into your hard bedroll for another uncomfortable night, the sound of hammering begins, rhythmic and purposeful. It continues long after most of the camp has fallen into exhausted sleep. In the distance, the walls of Troy gleam under moonlight, still unbreached, still defiant. But something has changed. The war feels different tonight. The strange music of construction, hammering, sawing, men grunting as they lift heavy objects, becomes your lullaby. Whatever Epius is building, it's big, and if Odysseus is involved, it's bound to be clever and dangerous. The last thing you see before sleep claims you is Epeus's silhouette against the torchlight, directing men with newfound authority, pointing toward the stars as if measuring the heavens themselves. The coward transformed into something else entirely, a creator, an engineer, a man who might just change the course of this endless war with the strength of his hands rather than his spear arm. Tomorrow, you think, tomorrow we'll see what the carpenter can do. In your dreams, wood creaks and groans as if coming alive. You see massive legs taking shape, a hollow belly large enough to swallow men whole, and wonder what madness the gods have inspired this time. But one thing is certain, after 10 years of stalemate, something new is finally happening in the shadow of Troy's impenetrable walls. See, nobody ever talks about what a pain in the arse it was just staying alive during that war, old Timaeus had told you once, back in your village. The ancient veteran had fought at Troy in his youth, 10 years living in tents, drinking brackish water, eating whatever wouldn't kill you immediately. Half my unit died of dysentery, not Trojan spears, and the smell gods, the smell of thousands of men living in their own filth for a decade. The poets never mention that part, do they? No, you think, they certainly don't. The glory of war sounds much better in stories than it smells in reality. The hammering continues deep into the night, punctuated occasionally by cursing when someone smashes a thumb instead of a nail. Whatever Epeus is building, it's being built by men who've been at war for 10 years, tired, hungry, desperate men who likely never worked as carpenters before this endless siege. As sleep finally takes you, one last thought drifts through your mind. What could possibly be so important that Agamemnon would allocate precious wood, manpower, and resources to build it, in a camp where men fight over scraps of food and cups of water, where every decision is calculated against survival? This sudden project speaks of something momentous. Tomorrow you'll find out what the cowardly carpenter has been tasked to create, and why, after 10 long years, the most skilled hands in the Greek army are finally being put to their greatest use. Morning arrives with the unmistakable sounds of serious construction, the rhythmic pounding of mallets, the rasp of saws biting through timber, the grunts of men straining to lift heavy wooden beams. You roll over on your bedroll, surprised to see that the sun is already well above the horizon. Somehow you've slept later than usual despite the noise. The camp is buzzing with an energy you haven't felt in years. Curiosity drags you from your tent toward the source of the commotion. What you find is both confusing and impressive. In a cleared area near the beached ships, Epeus stands at the center of organized chaos. Around him, at least 30 men work with obvious purpose. Some are stripping bark from newly cut logs, others are splitting timber with wedges and hammers. A group of soldiers, men who yesterday were complaining about sore feet and dull spears, now carefully measure and mark lengths of wood under Epeus's watchful eye. But it's what's taking shape in the center that stops you cold. A massive wooden framework rises from the ground, the beginnings of something. You can't quite tell what it is yet, but it's big, really big. The skeleton of beams suggests a rectangular base with vertical supports that rise taller than two men. Epius moves through it all like a man possessed. Gone is the hesitant, fearful soldier. In his place stands a master craftsman in his element, pointing, correcting, demonstrating. When he speaks, men listen. Even Ajax, the giant Ajax, who fears no man alive, nods respectfully when Epius explains something about a joint that needs reinforcing. What in Hades are they building? You ask a passing soldier carrying a bucket of wooden pegs. The man glances around before answering, his voice low. A horse, a massive wooden horse. A what? Why would we? Odysseus's plan, going to hide men inside it, trick the Trojans into dragging it into their city. You stare at the growing framework with new understanding. Not a siege engine or a weapon, a trick. A giant wooden offering that's actually a hollow transport for warriors. It's so absurd it just might work, or get everyone involved killed in spectacular fashion. As if summoned by your thoughts, Odysseus appears, deep in conversation with Epeius. The carpenter is sketching something in the dirt with a stick while Odysseus nods intently. Must be large enough for at least 30 men, Odysseus is saying, but not so large they'll never drag it through their gates. Epius frowns, calculating. Their main gate is approximately 15 feet wide. If we build it much wider than 12 feet, they'll never get it inside. And the height? That depends on the men inside. They'll need to sit stacked in 3 levels. Epius draws a cross-section in the dirt. See? Bottom level here, middle here, top near the neck and head. If we make it 25 feet tall, there should be enough room. Odysseus whistles softly. Can you build something that large in time? For the first time, Epeius smiles, a confident, almost predatory expression. Give me 3 days. 3 days? To build that? Odysseus looks skeptical. 3 days, Epius repeats firmly. But I need more men, and I need uninterrupted access to the lumber we salvaged from those damaged ships. You'll have it, and the men inside need to be chosen carefully. No one too large, no one prone to coughing fits or panic, and absolutely no one with loose bowels. This last requirement makes Odysseus laugh, a rare sound in the camp these days. I'm serious, Epius insists. 30 men packed together in a wooden belly for who knows how long. One man with stomach troubles will doom the whole operation. You drift closer, pretending to be interested in a pile of rope nearby. This is by far the most interesting thing to happen in months, possibly years. What about the trapdoor? Odysseus asks, his voice lower now. Epeius nods. Bottom of the belly, hidden by the legs from outside view. I'll design a special catch that only I can operate from inside. You? Odysseus raises an eyebrow. You're going inside? Epeius straightens his shoulders. It's my design, my creation, and... He hesitates. I know how Greek soldiers treat equipment. Someone needs to be in there who understands how it all fits together. What goes unsaid hangs in the air between them, someone who might not be missed in the fighting outside, someone whose greatest value isn't his spear arm. Odysseus studies the carpenter for a long moment, then nods. Very well, you'll go inside with the others. Now, what about materials? The conversation turns technical, with Epeius detailing the various types of wood needed. Oak for the framework, strong enough to support the weight, pine planks for the exterior, lighter and easier to work, specialized joints reinforced with bronze fixtures salvaged from broken chariot wheels. You drift away, mind spinning with the audacity of it all. A giant wooden horse, a gift to trick the Trojans. It's either brilliant or the desperate plan of men who've been at war too long. Possibly both. Throughout the morning, you watch the structure take shape with surprising speed. Epeius has clearly been planning this in his head for some time. The base is fully framed by midday, a rectangular platform with the beginnings of 4 sturdy legs extending upward. The work isn't without challenges. Twice you see Epeius tear down sections that don't meet his exacting standards. He gets into a shouting match with Epeios, one of Ajax's men, about the quality of some timber. "This wood is green," Epeius yells, throwing down a plank in disgust. "It'll warp within days. Find me seasoned wood, or this whole thing will collapse with our men inside." Epeios, a head taller and twice as broad as the carpenter, looks ready to crush him for a moment. Then, surprisingly, he backs down. "We used all the seasoned wood from the last shipment," he admits. Epeius runs a hand through his hair in frustration. "Then we need to speed dry what we have. Build fires. Not too close. We don't want to burn it, just dry it faster." That creates a new flurry of activity as men clear spaces for controlled fires near the construction site. You've never seen soldiers work this hard except in battle. There's an energy in the air, a sense of purpose that's been missing through years of futile siege. By midday, hunger drives you to the food distribution area. The usual miserable rations await, hard barley cakes and watered wine, but even here there's change. Extra portions are being provided to the men working on construction. "King's orders," explains the distribution officer when you ask. "Those men are doing the work of 3. As you chew the brick-like barley cake, you wander back to watch the construction. The wooden frame now clearly resembles the lower half of a horse. The 4 legs are complete, secured to a rectangular base, and the rounded belly is taking shape between them. Epeius stands on a platform, directing the installation of curved ribs that will form the horse's barrel-like torso. His face is streaked with sweat and sawdust, but his eyes are alive with concentration. He moves with certainty, his hands demonstrating exactly how each piece should fit. "Oh, no, no," he shouts at a soldier struggling with a joining piece. "The curve needs to be uniform or the exterior planking won't sit flush. Like this." He takes the tools himself, quickly reshaping the wood with practiced movements. "See, now it will hold weight without creaking." You're so absorbed in watching that you don't notice Odysseus approach until he speaks beside you. Impressive, isn't it? You nearly jump out of your skin. The king of Ithaca has a way of moving silently when he chooses. "Yes, my lord," you stammer. "I've never seen anything like it." Odysseus studies you thoughtfully. "You're from Euboea, aren't you? Served under Elephenor until he fell." You're startled he knows this detail. "Yes, lord." "Good fighters, the Euboeans." He turns his attention back to the construction. "What do you think of our horse?" The question seems genuine, not a test. Still, you choose your words carefully. It's clever. If the Trojans take it inside their walls, a big if, Odysseus acknowledges. They're not fools, the Trojans. They've survived 10 years of our best efforts. What makes you think they'll accept it? A sly smile crosses the king's face. Because we'll make it irresistible, a dedication to Poseidon, god of horses, too magnificent to destroy, and we'll leave them a convincing storyteller. Before you can ask what he means, a commotion erupts near the supply area. 2 men are fighting over a bronze fitting, their shouts drawing a crowd. "Excuse me," Odysseus says, already moving toward the disturbance. "Can't have delays." The argument is settled quickly. Odysseus has a way with words that could probably talk fire into freezing. Work resumes somehow even more intensely than before. As afternoon wears on, the horse continues to take shape. The belly is now clearly defined, a hollow chamber large enough to hold several men. Workers have begun attaching exterior planking, transforming the skeleton into a solid form. Epius moves constantly, checking measurements, testing joints, making adjustments. You notice he pays special attention to the underside of the belly, where planking creates a small, barely noticeable seam. The trapdoor, you realize, the secret exit that will unleash Greek warriors into the heart of Troy. The sun beats down mercilessly, and men strip to their waists as they work. Epius remains fully clothed despite the heat, his focus absolute. Twice you see him refuse water, unwilling to pause even for basic needs. Late in the afternoon, a complication arises. The head of the horse, partially constructed separately, doesn't properly align with the neck framework. Epius examines the joint, his expression darkening. "The angle's wrong," he declares. "We need to rebuild the neck support." This prompts groans from the exhausted workers. They've been labouring non-stop since dawn. No shortcuts, Epeius insists. If the head separates during transport, the entire ruse is exposed. Reluctantly, men begin dismantling part of their day's work. You're struck by how seriously everyone is taking this project. These are the same soldiers who regularly shirk latrine duty or find excuses to avoid sentry shifts. Yet here they are, rebuilding a section of a giant wooden horse without complaint. Hope is a powerful motivator, you realize. After 10 years of stalemate, even the slimmest chance of victory drives men beyond normal endurance. As the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, you notice a small group gathering near Agamemnon's tent. The kings are meeting again. Odysseus, Diomedes, Menelaus, and others, huddled in serious discussion. Occasionally, one glances toward the half-completed horse, then back to their circle. They're selecting the men who will hide inside, you realize. Choosing the warriors who will risk everything on this desperate gamble. A soldier passing by offers a surprising piece of information. They're drawing lots, volunteers only, but they're using lots to make the final selection. Volunteers, you ask, genuinely surprised? To be locked inside a wooden horse and dragged into enemy territory? The soldier shrugs. Better than another 10 years of this hell. You can't argue with that logic. As dusk approaches, work on the horse slows but doesn't stop. torches are lit, creating a circle of flickering light around the massive structure. In the dancing shadows, the half-completed horse seems to shift and move, almost alive. Epius finally takes a break, dropping exhausted onto a wooden crate. He accepts a cup of water, drinking deeply. Even resting, his eyes never leave his creation. He studies it from different angles, mentally working through tomorrow's challenges. A soldier approaches him hesitantly. "Sir," the men are wondering, "what about the wheels?" Epius nods, unsurprised by the question. "Tomorrow, we'll attach them last. 4 wheels salvaged from grain carts, reinforced with bronze. They'll need to support tremendous weight." "And if they break during transport?" "They won't," Epius says with absolute certainty. "I've redesigned the axles specifically for this purpose." The confidence in his voice is striking. This is a different man from the hesitant soldier you've known for years. In his element, Epeius radiates authority. As night falls completely, Agamemnon finally orders a halt to the work. Men drop tools and stumble toward cookfires. Utterly spent, only Epius remains, making notes in the dirt by torchlight, occasionally looking up to study some aspect of the structure. "He hasn't eaten all day," comments a soldier sitting near your fire. "Probably won't sleep either," adds another. "Man's obsessed." You glance toward the lone figure still working in the torchlit darkness. Perhaps obsession is exactly what this desperate plan needs. Later, as you prepare for sleep, you see something unusual. Men are quietly gathering near the horse, placing small offerings at its base. A cup of wine, a piece of bread, a carved wooden figure. Not formal sacrifices to the gods, but personal tokens, as if the horse itself might bring them luck. 10 years of war has made the Greek army superstitious. Anything for an edge, anything for favour from the fickle gods. As you drift towards sleep, the last thing you see is Epeius, still awake, still working. He circles the partially built horse like a parent, checking on a sleeping child. Adjusting here, reinforcing there, constantly improving. Tomorrow the horse will take its final form. Tomorrow you'll see if the cowardly carpenter's masterpiece might actually end this endless war. In your dreams that night, you see Troy's walls finally breached, not by battering rams or siege towers, but by a wooden creation with a hollow belly full of Greece's deadliest warriors, all thanks to the man least likely to be remembered as a hero, the trembling soldier with the gifted hands who built victory from timber and rope and bronze. In the strange logic of dreams, you find yourself inside the horse, cramped among sweating warriors, feeling the structure sway as it's dragged across uneven ground. The wood creaks alarmingly. Someone whispers a prayer. Another suppresses a cough. Outside, Trojan voices debate whether to burn the offering or bring it inside their walls. Everything hinges on their decision. Everything hangs on the craftsmanship of a single man, the quality of his joints, the strength of his design, the cleverness of his hidden door. In that suspended moment between life and death, victory and defeat, you realize that Epeius is no coward at all. His courage simply takes a different form, not the blood-soaked glory of battlefield heroes, but the quiet determination to create something that will long outlive him. And in that realization, your dreaming mind finally understands. Sometimes the greatest acts of bravery look nothing like the stories later tell. The second day dawns clear and hot, the kind of scorching summer day when the air feels solid. By the time you emerge from your tent, the camp is already buzzing with activity centered around Apaeus's creation. The horse has evolved overnight, its form now unmistakable. 4 sturdy legs support a rounded belly, the curved neck extends upward, and the rough shape of a head is taking form. You're not the only one drawn to watch. Soldiers gather at the edges of the work area, their morning duties temporarily forgotten. There's something hypnotic about seeing the massive beast take shape, like watching the gods breathe life into wood. Epius is already at work, or more likely, still at work from the night before. His eyes are rimmed with red, his movements slightly slower than yesterday, but his focus remains absolute. He directs a team attaching exterior planking to the horse's belly with the precision of a battlefield commander. "Tighter seams," he calls to a group working on the right flank. "I should not be able to slip a blade between those planks." A soldier demonstrates the joining technique to his less skilled companions, an angled overlap that creates a nearly invisible seam when properly executed. Where did infantry soldiers learn such carpentry skills? Then you notice that many of today's workers are different from yesterday's crew. Epius has apparently been selecting men with relevant experience, shipwrights, carpenters, wheelwrights, from throughout the vast Greek army. The horse's belly is the focus this morning. What yesterday was an open framework is now being enclosed, creating the hollow chamber that will hide Greek warriors. Watching the planking seal, the space makes your breath catch, imagining being locked inside that wooden prison, depending entirely on the craftsmanship of these joins to remain hidden and secure. Around midday, a new challenge emerges. As workers complete more of the exterior planking, the structure's weight increases dramatically. One of the supporting scaffolds creaks ominously, then cracks. "Brace it," Apaeus shouts, rushing forward. Men scramble to position timber supports as the horse shifts slightly to one side. For a tense moment, it seems the entire structure might collapse. Then the emergency bracing takes hold and the horse stabilizes. Soldiers exhale collectively. Epius examines the damaged scaffold, his expression grim. "We need stronger supports," he declares. "The horse is heavier than I calculated." This creates a new problem. The camp's supply of large timber is already stretched thin by the construction. Where will they find more? The solution comes from an unexpected source. Nestor, the eldest of the Greek kings, approaches the construction site, leaning on his staff. "Use the oak supports from my ship," the old man offers, his voice carrying surprising strength. "We can replace them later if we survive this gambit." Epius looks startled by the offer. Ship timber is precious, especially to a king. "My lord, are you certain? Your vessel will serve me little if we die here at Troy," Nestor interrupts. "Take what you need." Within the hour, crews arrive carrying massive oak beams from Nestor's beached ship. These are quickly worked into stronger scaffolding that better supports the growing weight of the horse. As the day progresses, you notice something curious. Apaeus has begun adding decorative elements to the horse's exterior, not just functional construction, but artistic touches. Carved mane details appear along the neck. The eyes are carefully shaped to appear alert and lifelike. The tail, crafted from actual horsehair collected from the army's remaining mounts, is attached with meticulous attention. "Why waste time on how it looks?" grumbles a soldier nearby. "It just needs to hold men." "Because," explains another, a shipbuilder from Athens, "the Trojans need to want it. They need to see it as valuable, worth dragging inside their walls." The wisdom of this strikes you suddenly. This isn't just a transport device, it's a seduction. Every carved detail, every artistic flourish makes the horse more tempting, more irresistible as a prize. By early afternoon, the horse's structural elements are largely complete. The focus shifts to the critical trapdoor on the belly's underside. This seemingly simple feature is receiving extraordinary attention from Epeius himself. He works alone on this crucial element, allowing no one else to assist. From your vantage point, you can see him creating an ingenious locking mechanism, a series of sliding wooden bolts that can be secured from inside, yet released quickly when needed. "It must be invisible from outside," you overhear him explaining to Odysseus, who has come to inspect progress, "yet easy to operate in darkness by men who may be cramped and terrified." "And if it jams?" Odysseus asks the question everyone fears. Epeius's jaw tightens. "It won't. I'll be inside to ensure it." This is the moment you realise the true extent of Epeius's courage. He's not just building the horse, he's entrusting his life to his own craftsmanship. If the door fails, if the structure collapses, if the design proves flawed, he dies first and most certainly. As afternoon wears on, the sun beats down mercilessly. Men work stripped to the waist, sweat streaming down dust-covered bodies. Water carriers circulate constantly as dehydration becomes a serious concern. Despite the conditions, the work continues with remarkable precision. The head takes shape under the skilled hands of a team led by a sculptor from Argos. What yesterday was a rough wooden block now displays the distinct features of a stallion: flared nostrils, alert ears, proud neck. They've even begun applying thin bronze sheeting to parts of the face, creating a metallic gleam that catches the sunlight. "Beautiful," murmurs a voice beside you. It's Machaon, one of the army's physicians, almost ashamed to use it for such deception. "Do you think it will work?" you ask, voicing the doubt that plagues everyone. Machaon considers the question seriously. "The Trojans are proud. They've withstood us for 10 years. To suddenly find us gone, leaving only this magnificent offering." He shrugs. "Pride often blinds men to obvious traps." Mid-afternoon brings a critical test. The scaffolding supporting the horse's left front section must be temporarily removed to allow workers access to the underside. This means the structure must support its own weight fully for the first time. Epeius oversees this operation personally, tension evident in every line of his body. Men with pry bars stand ready to quickly replace supports if the leg begins to buckle. Others grip ropes attached to the upper body, prepared to stabilize the horse if it leans. "Slowly," Epeius commands, as workers begin removing the scaffolding. "Keep tension on those guide ropes." Inch by inch, the supporting timbers are withdrawn. The horse's leg trembles slightly under the shifting weight. A creaking sound sends a ripple of anxiety through the watching crowd. Then, nothing. The leg holds. The structure remains stable. A cheer erupts from the workers, quickly hushed by officers. They're still trying to maintain some secrecy about the project, though by now every man in camp knows what's being built. Epeius allows himself a brief smile. the first you've seen from him during this entire process. It's the look of a craftsman whose creation has just passed a crucial test. The successful weight test energizes the workers. Progress accelerates through the afternoon as confidence in the design grows. The exterior planking is now nearly complete, transforming the horse from skeleton to solid form. Only the underside remains partially open, allowing final interior work.